Welcome back to Binford Chronicles. Listen, we've got John Carroll, the Hernando County Housing Authority Chairman, back with us today. And we're going to I'm going to pick his brain tonight. John Carroll, he does a lot of events. So he's met a lot of people and he's had experience with politics and he loves history. So I'm going to pick his brain because, we've had the redistricting in Florida. We've got Anna Paulina Luna, is she going to be the RNC chair, and how do you guys feel about that? SB 484 with our data centers and AI. And, we're going to move on to the gubernatorial race after that. So stick around. We'll be back with John Carroll in just a few minutes. So hang out. We'll be right back.
There's a kind of strength you can't buy or borrow. It's born in the fire, tempered by sacrifice, and carried by those who never stopped serving. Some heroes wear uniforms. Others wear scars. They're veterans, first responders, and Gold Star families. Men and women who gave everything and still keep giving. At the Warrior Shield Foundation, we stand beside them, shoulder to shoulder, providing the support, the care, and the community they deserve. We're a proud non-profit, a 501c3, built to protect those who protect us. We don't just serve our own. We help other non-profits reach their missions too, because together, we make the Shield stronger. Donate and help our cause, help their cause, because every act of kindness builds hope where the battle still rages inside. Join the mission. Donate today. Visit warriorshield.org. Because heroes deserve a foundation as strong as their sacrifice.
Welcome back, John. Before we get started, I just wanted to let everybody know about Warrior Shield, and they are supporting Border Patrol Foundation. So Border Patrol Foundation is supporting all of the Border Patrol agents that are sacrificing their time, sometimes their lives, their health, to protect our borders. And what they do is the foundation aids the Border Patrol employees, U.S. Border Patrol agents, and their families in cases of on-duty and off-duty deaths, injuries, illness, family, medical emergencies, special circumstances, and they even offer student scholarships. So later on, I'm going to show you a little more about that and how you can sign up, but it's a great event happening September 18th through the 20th. And as you can see, there's a list of activities here. So I want you guys to go to the warriorshield.org and support them. It's a great organization. Joining us again.
I appreciate it very much. Always good to come on friend shows and help out and discuss everything. And this is what, my third or fourth appearance on your show now. So
yeah,
clearly, I guess I'm doing decent enough. You haven't fired me yet. So
yeah. So, I love that you're just widely spread all over the state. You've even gone to other countries, so you're a man full of information. You're like a little encyclopedia running around town,
I've heard that joke a few times now. So yeah, that's exactly what people. I'll never forget when I was being awarded my Army Achievement Medal. This is back in 2009. It's one of those things that you just never forget. I was a specialist at the time. That was my rank. And my first sergeant, I'll never forget, he said to the entire company, if you've known Specialist Carroll more than 10 minutes, you know this guy's a walking Wikipedia. And that's one of the nicest compliments I've ever gotten.
And that you are. I wanted to pick your brain because, we've got our district just got so big right now. And I was just looking at it. We were talking about that before the show came on. And I just wanted to show people what that looks like. And we actually have a sliver of Orange County right up top on the left side of the screen there. Middle. And then we've got Osceola County, which is very more democratic than I thought it would have been. Uh,
Oh yeah.
and then we've got, a sliver of Polk County. I kind of was relieved because Polk County is pretty red,
Yeah.
you know. And then we've got Highlands and the Glades and Okeechobee. But I went and highlighted Polk County because we don't know what that little sliver is in Orange County, because Orange County is huge. There's like over 1 million people there, and you don't even think about it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's the crazy thing. So if you look at the numbers, now here's the key detail, and I know I got you got the link and everything as well. The governor has to. The governor is one who wrote the map this time, but the way the legislature works is they have to take the population and make it pretty much even, give or take 1% from each other. And so the magical number this time was 769,221. That's how many people had to be in each district. And the hard part was they had to base it off of the 2020 census numbers. So, like you had made the point when you were looking at the numbers, you're like, wait a minute, I thought our county is much bigger than this in population. It is, I'm willing to bet, because everybody in Florida has grown. Apologies. But the problem is that the numbers that you hear from a county, is basically official estimates. Technically, the only thing that ever becomes the official number is from the U.S. Census, and that only happens once every 10 years. So all the numbers you get, I'm not saying the numbers are wrong. Like my county has grown. Let me be very quick about this. Was 15. I live in Hernando County. This says the population is 194,500. I know that's not the case. At minimum, Hernando County is 10,000 more. At maximum, we've grown by highest estimates is 30,000 since that time. So we're at to like 224,000 in some high estimates, but the number's not official unless it's the census. So the redistricting had to be based on the 2020 numbers that they had gotten. So this map is very big, like you said, for that very reason. And so, like you mentioned it very quickly about Polk County. Shout out to my friends. They call it Imperial Polk County. That's been the nickname for decades and decades on. The part that you guys are getting is basically the city of Frostproof, and then you guys are getting the entirety of the Avon Park Air Force bombing range. Very populated area in terms of that. Avon Park, the town, is in Highlands County, but the Air Force has a big training range over there as well. And then you also get an Indian Lake Estates. So you guys are very big in this. I don't remember what the district looked like before that. You guys were at what, the previous 8th district with Congress are now adopted?
Yeah, we were District 8.
Yeah, so
we had a little bit of Brevard County, but just a sliver of it.
Yeah, so actually, I'm looking at the map right now. It looks like you guys didn't get an inch of Brevard. Like the border of the counties is it, surprisingly. Yeah. So you guys have 4 counties in the 9th district now in its entirety, plus 3 other parts. So you have your home of Indian River County. You have, what is that, Highlands County, Okeechobee County, our good old boys down there, and good old Glades County. You have 100% of those 3. You have Southeast Polk County, as mentioned. You have like 95% of Osceola County. You have small slivers of that border between Osceola and Polk, of the western portion, the northwest portion. That's over in the 18th district. And then, but you have the entirety of St. Cloud, Kissimmee, all that. And then, yes, you do have that portion of Orange County. You have the Orlando International Airport. You have Meadow Woods. And you have a bunch of other, Crosby Island Marsh, and a bunch of other stuff like that. So a good population amount, which according to the official census numbers, Orange County accounts for 125-ish thousand people in your district now, which let's safe bet and say Orange County hasn't grown as fast percentage-wise as other counties. So let's say that's 135 to 140,000 people on safe estimates.
Wow. It's amazing. So Oof, we're going to have to see how this voting goes. I hope that everybody votes in the primaries. How do you
Oh
feel
yeah.
about that? Do you think people should really focus on the primaries?
So yes, the primaries are still going to be huge, no doubt, because you now have. Here's the interesting thing: because of the redistricting, you happen to live in one of the four districts that does not have an incumbent Republican. That was supposed to be the case in my county. We all expected us to be one of the four county incumbents, but instead, one of the four district incumbents. However, Congresswoman Laurel Lee, who's currently in the 15th district, I'm now in the 15th, has decided to stay in the same number. And so she's coming all the way from the southern portion of the district, and she's going to be running for our district instead of staying in just Hillsborough. So we have that incumbency difference instead. You guys don't. Under the ninth, the numbers with the ninth, you guys technically. Now here's an important thing. January 3rd is when the new term starts. So whoever your representative is right now is still your representative until 8 or 9 in the morning on January 3rd. That's when they take the oaths and the new term starts. So you're still with Congressman Haradopoulos until January 3rd, but you won't be able to vote for him in this primary. So because of that, everyone's going to be coming out of the woodworks now to be running for office, which has already been happening. I mean, that was happening in my county because we expected Congresswoman Lee to stay in Hillsborough. So one of my county commissioners had jumped in for the primary. He's since dropped out because Congresswoman Lee has already been endorsed by President Trump. So that changed it up. But your place is going to be a whole different. I mean, if you saw the Florida politics articles that already came out, State Representative Robbie Brackett from Indian River County was floating the idea of running for the district, but he's bowed out instead.
That.
Yeah, I had heard about that. Say that? Yeah, he's already, but he didn't even jump in. He's said that he's just not going to do it, and he's going to run for re-election. So he's just stay in the state house, which gives me a theory or two about that.
What do you think?
The only reason Robbie Brackett's a good guy, a good rep. The only reason he's not running tells me that somebody else that he knows is going to be running, and he decided he probably did the math and figured, okay, this person might have more money. This person might be more popular than me. This person could be stronger. So it could be any of those. It could just be that he's a good friend and he's like, you know what, I am comfortable in doing things in the house. We're doing a lot of good work here. This person's got a lot more goals and we align. I'll let them do it. And he could just be a good friend. You know, that happens.
I can see him doing that if he knows the person really well.
Right.
They probably came to him and talked to him if that was the scenario.
Right. And the thing is, the Republican Party, not saying I've heard this outright from anybody official, but this is now for Florida an offensive defensive election, and what I mean by that,
I was going to ask you to explain that.
it's a defensive election because I want you to think about this. We are at the highest point Florida ever has had for Republicans in Congress, in the state house, and the state senate, and having the entire cabinet. 2022 was the first time for Florida in history that the Republicans had all four members of the cabinet and the two U.S. senators. We've not had that. And so it was already a defensive year because regardless of who wins the primaries, we got to keep the governorship. We got to keep the rest of the cabinet, Attorney General, Ag Commissioner, CFO. We got to keep Senator Ashley Moody, or I think somebody's challenging her for the Senate race, but it's likely going to be Senator Moody, and we got to keep that seat. And then so it's defensive on that, which does not sound too hard in some ways because we become so lopsided Republican-wise. But down ballot is the big thing because we have 20 members of Congress that are Republican, and we have supermajorities in the state house and the state senate. And two of those seats in the state house are not staying with us because realistically, because those are two seats held by Democrats that switched to Republican. Literally, Susan Valdez from Tampa, she tried running for Democrat Party chair in Hillsborough County, lost the race, and then a week later announced she was switching to Republican. And she outright said by switching Republican, it gave her the benefits. The Speaker of the House put her appropriations for her district as a priority.
Susan Valdez is a Democrat. Her voting record is terrible.
Oh, social is very much socialist, very much left.
Oh my gosh, she's voted for abortion after 15 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, the things that she's voted for is so anti-Republican. I don't even know why she is even in that spot.
Well, because she ran as a hard leftist, and she's in her final term in the state house, and so she might be trying to figure out a plan. Trying to, I don't know, maybe she's going to run for county commission. She might try to go back to the school board. She's not running for state senate. That's not happening. She's got some kind of angle, but she outright admitted that by switching to the state house, Danny Perez, the current Speaker of the House, gets to boast that he has the biggest majority that are Republicans in the state house in Florida's history, which is true. And that's because of those two flips. And so he got that plus, while Susan Valdez outright said she got benefits for appropriations. She was given a committee vice chairmanship. Some of her things became priorities for that reason. So she got to end on a high note and try to look good for the district and that stuff. That's why she did it.
Oh my gosh, if anybody really looks at her voting record, there's nothing she
Oh yeah.
can do to look good.
Oh no,
It's
you're right.
despicable. I was looking at it yesterday and I was like, "Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
This is atrocious. This is somebody infiltrating the
Oh yeah.
Republican Party."
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's at least her last term, and again, who knows what's going to be her next plans? I assume there's something. Hillary Castle, the other one, well, we won't go too much into it, but I don't know her reasoning. I don't know if she's thinking her area is going more Republican and this saves her. I honestly don't know. That wouldn't surprise me because she's only in her second or third term. She's not done like Valdez. But what I'm getting at is those are two seats that already we have to be on the defensive to try to maintain, which are not likely. There's also probably 3 to 4 state
Castle's
house
bad
seats.
too.
There's
Yeah,
about another
I was looking at Castle as well.
Yeah, and there's another about 3 to 4 state house seats, and maybe 1 or 2 state senate seats that could be up for defense this year, and that's just natural. Like, and meaning that they could flip. I'm not saying it's likely to flip, but they could. And so we're already in a defensive posture for that reason. We're now on the offensive because we have now a map that is designed to give us 4 more districts looking to be Republican, and we need to try to get those. One of them being your district, the 9th district, which is represented by Darren Soto. He's going to run for that.
Yeah.
That or he's going to try to pull something and run against Maxwell Frost in the 10th district in Orlando. I don't think he's going to be able to. He's going to do that. He could. I don't think he will. But there's that. There's the 14th district, which now that Laurel Lee is running in my district, the hard part is trying to see if we have somebody strong enough that can take on Kathy Castor because she is a powerhouse. Regardless of like her or not, she is a powerhouse for Tampa. So the question is, can we beat her? I know former.
Tampa's pretty liberal, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, the new district is Republican leaning now. But the difference is that she's from Tampa. She's well known. The mayor of Tampa just happens to be Jane Castor with the same last name. They're actually not
They
related.
have to call her out on her issues is what they have to do is let people know how
Right.
what her record really looks like because you can be popular as heck, but you can just be throwing us down the toilet.
Well, you're exactly
On the
right,
other
but you got to
hand.
remember there's a fair amount of Tampa that's still in the district, of course. You have Riverview, which is very Democrat. Brandon is slightly Democrat, from what I understand. So there's a fair amount of Democrats still in that district, and if the Republicans don't turn out to vote in November, that's the problem. So we need
Yeah.
a strong enough candidate. Former State Representative Mike Beltran is rumored to be looking to run. He's one of the first ones to come out and endorse President Trump in the 2024 election from Florida when that group came out. So it's possible that President Trump could endorse him. That could help in a way. But it also depends. Like Tampa's a little different. Hillsborough County is going more Republican, yes, but Tampa itself is still pretty liberal. So that might hurt Mike. It might help Mike. I can't say, but
Yeah,
that's why it's an offensive year. Because in the last part, I know I'm rambling. With these 4 districts that we now have that we could be taking, it's going to require people to jump into these races. And so in the Hillsborough case, it doesn't look like an elected incumbent is going to run for the 14th. Maybe. We don't know. Which means now their seat, is it going to be a resign to run and somebody's going to get appointed to the seat? Or is it going to be their term is up and so now somebody new, people are going to jump into that race? And the same thing in your case. Had Robbie Brackett chose to run for Congress, well, now a bunch of people out of Indian River County would have been jumping in to announce for their state house seat. The trickle down politics. So And who knows what else is going to be. I've got a theory or two of who might jump in for your district, but that's the thing, is that it could be the trickle down and people running for those seats because of it. So that it's offensive to win these seats, and we need the strongest people to win those. But then, if elected people are running for said higher seats, now we got to find the right people that can run for those seats. Or just, I mean, obviously, we don't have to look. People will just jump in, and hopefully, it's good, qualified people will run and win those seats.
Well, talking about seats and stuff like that, Anna Paulina Luna is talking about taking the chair seat for RNC, or running for that seat. And I love the work that she's been doing for us. So, but then again, the RNC does need some really strong Republicans. I mean, when you look at all the voting records of the Republicans, I think they've forgotten what the Constitution is all about. And
Yeah.
because even when I was looking at our state representatives, a majority of them are voting at 67%. That's their grade. That's their constitutional voting grade. It's
Yeah.
67%. And, like these Democrat Republicans we were just talking about, Castle is 33%, and she's totally for supporting illegal immigration. If you look at the bills that she voted for, and she's totally against the Second Amendment, she's for climate change.
Yeah.
you know, I mean, these are issues that Republicans are not for. And we've got so many Republicans that are not strong conservatives. That's going to save our republic, is the strong Republicans, because they get to vote on these bills that get passed. And we need so much support there. So I was kind of happy about Anna Paulina Luna.
Yeah.
I think she would be a great, it would be like a renewing at the RNC. What do you think?
So I'm biased because I personally have been friends with Anna since she ran the first time for Congress, when she ran against Charlie Crist in 2020, and then she won in 2022. I wish I'd known earlier that you were going to bring this part up. I think I missed it when you were asking me what topics to talk about. Because there was a lot of people that was out against Honor. And so back in the day, I went out and I had a baseball jersey made, button-up baseball jersey. And it says Team Luna with the number 13 for the 13th district on it. And I wore that thing proud just to piss off the Luna haters and everything. So I'm very biased towards Honor. She is awesome. She is a real fighter. And she's proven a lot of people who were naysayers and haters have come out since and is like, no, I was completely wrong. She's awesome. She's the best. And they're praising her and everything. What this says about, Anna, there's two things about this I'm going to say. The first thing about Anna herself is, I've talked to close friends about this before. This is going back a minute. Anna doesn't want to make a career in politics and public office itself. She wants to do her part. She wants to get things done. But she's not one that she's not going to be a Mitch McConnell or a Dianne Feinstein where you're going to see her in office until the very day she croaks, But McConnell looks like he might just make it over the finish line and survive before his term's up, hopefully.
There's several of them there that have their walkers.
Oh, exactly. Well, I'm saying that because I'm trying to, I don't want to speak ill on anybody. Like Dianne Feinstein, she literally passed away in office and everything. So, Anna's not one of those. But she does know, if she needs to do her part. And the idea of running for RNC chair, one, sounds great because it keeps it as Florida. So that's awesome. And she's very close with the president, and that helps out. But what this also says to me, honestly, and I got to be careful about this because of, with my positions and everybody I know, but this is at least speaking on a general fact. Remember, the current chair now is Florida State Senator Joe Gruters. And Joe Gruters came in because Michael Whatley resigned because he's running for Senate in his home state of North Carolina. He used to be the North Carolina GOP chair while being RNC chair. And he's a great guy. And Joe Gruters got elected to finish the term and continue on. He's always wanted to be party leadership. But this year's election, he's coming in as he came in as the chair of the RNC in one of the most crucial midterms because remember, President Trump is an anomaly and a once in a lifetime thing. And someone's gonna be like, now you're just praising and smattering. No, what I mean by that is we've only ever had two presidents make a successful return to office in terms of the presidency. Two presidents before have entered office after the presidency. John Quincy Adams got into Congress in Massachusetts, and Andrew Johnson entered the U.S. Senate on behalf of the state of Tennessee after being president. But only two presidents have ever left the presidency and came back. The first was Grover Cleveland when he won the 1892 presidential election and returned after beating Benjamin Harrison, and the next one was Trump. And so that's why this is a crucial midterm, because we are on the defensive. With all the redistricting and everything, the Republicans are on the defensive this year. And this election, depending on how it goes, is going to be a test for Joe Gruters. And I'm not saying anything bad. It's like, this is just the same thing. The chairman of the DNC, who's from Minnesota, I forgot his name, it's the same thing for him. He's never held elected office. The Democrats have practiced more of the chairman has held elected office or even in office. Like Senator Tim Kaine, who ran as Hillary's VP nominee, he, senator, former governor of Virginia, he was DNC chair. Debbie Wasserman Schultz, member of Congress while being chair, so on and so forth. Right now, their chair has not held elected office, and our chair currently does, where the Republicans rarely do it. It has happened. But what I'm getting at is, so it's a real test for both of them. Can the chairman of the DNC, who a lot of people do doubt, is he going to be able to pull things off and, do very well this year's election? And then Joe Gruters, can he pull things off and maintain in a successful defense? If we maintain Congress, Joe Gruters is doing much better. If we lose the House, it's not likely we're going to lose the Senate. We might lose one or two seats, but we also might gain one or two seats in the Senate. So odds are, knock on wood, that we will keep the Senate. The House is a possibility of still losing. But if we only lost and say we end up in the minority by, say, 5 seats, that's still a success, because on average, in the midterm elections, presidents tend to lose, their party, if they're in power in the Congress, tends to lose 20 to 40 seats. So if, say, we end up in the minority with only a 5-seat deficit, that's not bad. That's actually a pretty good job. So Joe Gruters could still look good for that. If we somehow lost by 10, 20 seats, then that's going to be a problem, And the thing is,
I'm not a huge fan of Joe Gruters,
So I know a number of people aren't. And the thing is, like,
I've met him.
The weird thing. Here's the weird thing about RNC chairs. Because we don't have the practice of having high-ranking elected people who are in the spotlight, we're not used to knowing who they are. Like, with all respect, like, who knew about Reince Priebus before he became chair? And if I remember right, I think he was the Wisconsin GOP chair. People from Wisconsin knew him. Michael Steele, the former lieutenant governor of Maryland, he was the RNC chair back in the day. People know him now because of his time on, CBS or whatever, or CNN or whatever news channel he's on. But back in the day, people didn't know. Whereas the Democrats, like I mentioned, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, people knew. Tim Kaine, people knew. Howard Dean, the governor of Vermont, became the chair. So people tend to know them a lot more because of that. Joe Gruters is different in the fact that he is an elected official, but he's also not well known because he is, and this is not a knock, he is technically the lowest ranking in terms of elected public office, lowest ranking RNC chair the RNC's had, because they've had a lieutenant governor. We've had other high-ranking people over the years, there's only been like 5 who have actually held elected office in the past in terms of public. Now, of course, a lot of them public party officials. Ronna Romney McDaniel was the Michigan GOP chair, stuff like that. So Joe Gruters is not as well known to the rest of the country for that reason. But again, that's just normal with the RNC chairs. Rarely do people know them. They're not ones that carry the spotlight. People didn't even know who Michael Whatley was until he became chair at the push by President Trump, and then now be running for U.S. Senate. And
Well, if you get involved with the Republican Party, you tend to know who the RNC chairs are.
Right? If you're in the
people that are just Republicans living their lives every day that vote Republican.
Exactly. Whereas the DNC, if you're a member of your county REC or the state party, yes, you'll know the names of the leadership. But here's a test right now, and this is not a knock. Do you know who the name is of the current RNC co-chair?
The co-chair?
Yeah. So they have a chair and then they have a co-chair. Part of the bylaws, there must be a chair who's the main one, but then a co-chair, which must be of the opposing gender. So
What is Evan Powers? spot.
Evan Powers is the Republican Party of Florida chair. I'm talking about the
Florida.
RNC. The co-chair is Casey Crosby, who is the national, I believe, still the national committee woman from Kentucky. Held county council for like I think 3 terms over in Lexington, but not a lot of people know that, and that's okay. The party doesn't push the spotlight as far as the party leadership like the Democrats do, where the Democrat Party chair has to have all.
Because people don't really know how that all works because they actually, all the chairmen, the committeemen, they go up and meet,
Yeah,
like the GOP and the
yeah,
RNC, the votes, they follow that ladder to the
yeah,
top where they get those votes. That's kind of like when they tried to get rid of Trump on the ballot here. It was the Republican Party that was doing it. It was the GOP. I remember going to the GOP at the Rosin Center. Laura Loomer was there. There was a bunch of other people there. Like, how can you do this? We're the Republican Party. We can't kick him off the ballot. And that was a great moment because we all went up there and let them know. I think Joe Gruters was there at the time when they went and did that vote. So it's kind of important, of the positions that they hold. People don't understand that, and I think that that's why I was saying if Anna Paulina Luna gets into the RNC, that's like a wow. She's going to be
yeah.
adding a whole great flavor to the party.
She will be the first in a very long time. If she wins the RNC chair, if she runs for it. Now, I don't know when this year's election is going to tell the case. If let's say we get smacked, let's go into fairyland and just picture it. Let's say we get smacked this year in the elections. Well, then there's going to be like, okay, people are going to want to call for Joe Gruters, somebody to run against him, and that's just normal in any race. I mean, the same thing happens at the state level, same thing happens at the county level. That's just normal. That's not knocking him. I mean, I guarantee if the Democrats do horrible this year's election, people are going to call for the DNC chair. I mean, the DNC has 4 national vice chairs, and they've already lost, like, I think 2 of them. One of them was that David Hogg kid, because he was trying to plot against, go figure. So they deal with their own headaches. If the election goes great this year, then probably Anna Paulina is not going to do it now. It could be after the what do you call it? After the 28 election, she might run for it. Who knows? The fact that she's putting it out there is a good test, and maybe because of the fact, it could also be a signal being said internally, because sometimes they let news get out just to see what people think, because that way, one, they test the waters, and then 2, sending out a message to some people. They could be sending a message to the RNC like, hey, if you guys don't do that well, we've got somebody in mind who's a superstar that a lot of people love. And there you go. I mean, remember, the same thing happened when Lara Trump ran for RNC national co-chair. She was the co-chair for about a year and a half because they needed to make sure the 2024 election was very well handled and organized. Someone's going to say, oh, the Trump family's rigging it. No, you know what they did? Lara Trump had, she had hundreds, if not, I think thousands of lawyers across the state in all the battlegrounds. I think every battleground state, they had 300 to 500 lawyers in each state watching to make sure if anything happened, if anything irregular happened with any of the elections, that they can immediately call it out, get a judge involved, try to see what's going on, and that 1 or 2 things happened, and it got taken care of in an organized and legal fashion. Like I'm talking about like if something was done that was wrong, if there was a process.
They needed that too.
Exactly. And that's the thing, is the RNC needed that. It wasn't something that was normal for the RNC in that past. They did some of it, but it wasn't as well of an organized machine. Not to mention, Lara Trump, it was great she did it, because that would have cost the RNC a lot of money for lawyers to do it. Lara Trump, I watched the PBD podcast, and I remember that episode. I was touring. I was in Massachusetts at the time doing this is at the end of 24, watching, and I was taking my trip across New England. I remember listening to them when I was in Massachusetts and then Vermont, which is funny. I'm watching Lara Trump and Republicans talking while I'm in Massachusetts and Vermont. So that's the fun part. But she made every single one of those lawyers were free. They didn't charge. They volunteered because they wanted to do that.
Oh, that's amazing.
Right. And that's the thing, is that Lara Trump was able to organize that. Same thing can happen with Anna Paulina. Now, here's the other thing. Maybe Anna Paulina doesn't run for chair. Maybe she decides to run for RNC co-chair, which is just as big. Because the whole point of the chair and the co-chair, like I've been confused too, because the young Republicans do it. And I'm like, what's the co-chair's job? Well, they assist the chair. I'm like, isn't that what a vice chair is? Does that mean that the vice chair is a deputy chair or a second vice? Like, what's going on? And part of it is the whole is a gender thing. They want to make sure, like, okay, one's the chair is the chair, and the co-chair assists and has a lot of authority. It's like imagine a company being split 51%, 49%. It's kind of like that. One is the big one, and the other one's just right there. And they also have it to where whatever gender the chair is, the opposing gender gets the co-chair. That's how they do it. Maybe Anna Paulina runs for RNC co-chair. Maybe she runs for RNC vice chair, something like that. Maybe she moves out or something. It could be something like that. She might not run for outright chair. Being co-chair would be just as much. If Anna's up there in any of the big three minimum, she will do an amazing job in getting the stuff taken care of. And she'll do the same thing that Lara Trump was doing. And because she's so close with the president and the president's family, that she can learn a lot from Lara Trump and what she did as RNC co-chair and trying to figure out, okay, how do I take what you were doing, keep it going, or bring it back if it's not been focused as much, and how can I add on to it? Like, Anna is
Lara Trump impressed me. And when she went in there, I was like, is she going to do a good job? Like, she blew it away.
I felt the same way. I really did. And I was like thinking to myself, and it wasn't knocking. More than capable, very smart. But I thought to myself, like, okay, this might rub people the wrong way. This might not do good. And I was glad to be wrong about that. Mm-hmm. And then when there was the idea of, when we had the Senate vacancy, when President Trump nominated then Senator Rubio for Secretary of State, people were trying to push the idea to get Lara Trump to be made the new senator by Governor DeSantis. And I was pushing against that only because I was afraid. I'm thinking to myself, is the RNC going to continue what she did? Like, we've had a long time.
You start seeing something rolling and you want it to keep going. You don't want it to fall back. All that work just
exactly. And that's what I was worried about. So, and it wasn't a knock on Chairman Whatley. I know he's done very well with the North Carolina GOP, and so I didn't really doubt him, but he could have been focusing on some things. His eyes could be on some things that are his real focus. Lara, that was some of those things were her real focus, and that's not knocking. You're not going to put me in charge of the health policy. Okay, I don't have a health background. So he's going to focus on his big stuff, on what he's doing as chair, and Lara's doing her stuff as co-chair, and this is her focus. Everyone's got their domain that they are the expert in, or it's their passion. So she did so well on that's what I was wondering. Now, Chairman Whatley showed how great he was with it and continued on. Casey Crosby is now the national co-chair, and she has done an amazing job. She used to be treasurer. She's done a great job for the Kentucky GOP and at the RNC, so I do have a lot of faith. If Anna runs for any of the leadership, it will be even better, and it's going to put a lot of focus. Like J.D. Vance, for example, is involved in the RNC because, there was always the big expectation that he's going to be the heir apparent, as people say, for President Trump. We'll see how 2028 goes because a lot of reports are now showing people are supporting Rubio. But the reason why I mentioned J.D. Vance is he is the chairman of the RNC's Finance Committee. So his job is helping fundraise and oversee all the money. And so and I think they're doing a great job.
What always gets me now that you mentioned Rubio, Rubio, I was itching to get him out of Florida, just itching to get him out of Florida because he was not doing a good job in that position. But when Trump put him in the position he's in now, he just blossomed. That is his niche. He's fantastic, great at what he does. And I'm just so happy where he's at. Like kudos, but it does not make me forget that he was terrible for Florida. And I'm like, no, I would never vote for him for president. I think what he's doing right now, he should continue doing because he's strong at it, and that's what we need. And he's doing great service for us right now.
I hear that from people still. There's people that maybe they're open to J.D. Vance. Some people open to Marco Rubio. Some people they're just not for J.D. Vance. Some people they're not for Rubio. Some people they're open to somebody else running for president as well. We still got a lot of time. But you're right. Like I had a lot of people. There was a lot of people that when the president announced he was picking Marco Rubio, a lot of people I knew was like, why? Like a lot of people here in Florida, why is he picking him? And I said, no, it's the perfect thing. It is perfect. He's going there. And they're like, why do you say that? I'm like, well, let's think about this. Secretary of State is all about foreign affairs. Marco Rubio is pretty good at foreign affairs.
Mm-hmm.
What's the biggest thing Trump is trying to go after? He was trying to go after China and taking down communism. What is the biggest thing that Rubio is passionate about? Hating communism. And so, like, because he's a Cuban, he's an American, he's a Cuban American, and so he's got that passion. So it doesn't matter if it's in Cuba, doesn't matter if it's Venezuela, doesn't matter if it's in China. It's communist, and so therefore he's going to push back against it, and that's what we've seen. And I told people,
And
I'm
he's
like,
passionate about it because he knows it's how bad it is.
exactly. And that's the thing is, I was telling people he's going to do a great job as Secretary of State. If he doesn't do a great job, the president has no problem firing people. We're seeing it again already. And then secondly, I'm like, it also is good because we know Governor DeSantis is going to pick a good person to become our senator, which he's done with Ashley Moody. And so it became a plus. So no matter what, it was a win-win for everybody. Now, you're right. There are still a number of people I know that are still holding the reservation. There are people becoming more open to Rubio because they think, okay, he's changed a lot since when we first remember him running in 2016. And, since the 2020 election, we've since found out that Marco Rubio stayed very close with President Trump behind the scenes when he was out of office. He was doing a lot of stuff. So we found out he had all that going. So he has changed a lot. People are going to still hold their breath, and that's completely fine. That's what you're supposed to do. Hold your breath, hold your reservations, because just because somebody turns into a good candidate now doesn't mean that they're going to be a good candidate for the whole job. There were people that I know, I can speak of one county. I'm not going to say which one. The people there despised this legislator and thought they were very much not a good one. And as they were finishing up their time in office, they decided they were going to go back home and run for local government. Local could be city or county. I'm not going to say what. And the people thought, well, the things that we can't stand them for, this level of government doesn't handle that. And the stuff that level of government handles, they're actually good at. So I'm actually going to like supporting this person. And they backed them running for office and getting into that seat. Ironically, those same people can't stand him again. They can't stand this person again because they feel they're doing a horrible job. So there is cases like that. You should always hold your breath because you don't know. Like I told you again.
That goes without saying. When you have an employee, okay, I'll give you an example. They're doing this job and they're not very good at it. But then you realize their skill set and you say, you know what? I think they would be great at
Yep.
this job.
Yep.
So they're still the same person. It's not that they've changed. It's that
Right.
they're in the place where they're supposed to be.
Right.
And that's where they flourish and blossom and grow and do amazing things.
Yeah.
So to me, Rubio hasn't changed. He's just where he's supposed to be. Like you could put me in a job that I hate and you'll notice it, but put me in a job that I love, and I would work my ass off and flourish and come up with ideas and be more creative. It's just moving a person from where they're at and having them in a place where they're supposed to be. And that's how I see Rubio. I don't see him as he's changed and, oh, now he's going to be a great president or he's going to be great at this. I see him as he is doing a fantastic job in this job. And that's why he looks so good, because he's good at this.
Oh, yeah.
And he has fired back in arguments, and I'm like, yeah, Rubio, go. But I just think it has to do a lot with where your skill set is, and his is there. I don't see him as president. I probably will never see him as president. It would take a lot of constitutional reform, I think, because when he was here, he will take he's signed red flag laws. He'll bump stock bans. He does not protect our Second Amendment. You know.
Yeah. So time will tell on all that, and I'm gonna tell you this as well. You want to know what's going to be the biggest indicator on all this is going to be how the election goes. Like right now, and I know someone's going to get mad at me the way I say this, but I have to analyze things from all ways possible, and it doesn't even mean that I like what I'm saying, but I have to analyze and I have to look at I almost play devil's advocate, not in that I want to support the devil, but like I got to understand the devil to figure out, because everything is a chess game and you got to figure out what the tactics are. This year's election is going to be a big tell on whether or not J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio could even run for president in 2 years' time. Because if let's say we get that blowout that I was mentioning before. Let's say we get smacked. Let's say the Democrats somehow, even with all the redistricting, pulls out a win, and we lose 20, 30, 40 seats, God forbid. That's going to be a memorandum against Trump and his administration. And so the idea of Marco Rubio or J.D. Vance, there could be a bad taste for them and anybody associated. Like Scott Bessent wouldn't be able to run. Not saying he would. Lee Zeldin, EPA administrator, wouldn't be able to run. Mark Wayne Mullen, now Homeland Security Secretary, wouldn't be able to run. I'm just naming off the cabinet. You know what I mean? So this election will be the test for that. If we gain seats somehow after all this, even with redistricting, if we break even, that's a good thing. And it's like, okay, it says something. If we gain a couple seats, okay. If we somehow, some way pulled off 10, 15, 20 seat gain, that would be one monumental. That hasn't happened since, I think, 2002. After 9/11, a lot more people became united, and where the Republicans and Democrats were actually very united, going against Afghanistan and Taliban and all that, and Al Qaeda, Republicans gained seats. So that's the last time that's happened, I believe, in a monstrous fashion. And so if something like that were to happen, then that's going to be a memorandum that everybody loves what Trump is doing. And so therefore they're going to want Trump 3.0. They're going to want, it could be J.D. Vance, it could be Rubio, and they could battle it out against each other. So that's the thing, is this election is going to be a real test. And then here's the other part. Mm-hmm. If the election goes bad, there's one extra variable that I skipped over for a second. If the election were to go bad this year, could Rubio and J.D. Vance still run? Sure. You know what they're going to have to do? They're going to have to show themselves of how they've been distant from the president and his administration, which is very hard to do. But they would have to try that. And I'm not even saying that they have to come out as anti-Trump. I'm not saying that. What they are going to have to do is come out as somewhat moderate. You know, there's going to be things where Rubio wouldn't be able to go against when it comes to foreign affairs. He is doubling, tripling, quadrupling down. He would have to talk about other categories that maybe he disagreed with. Because anytime he makes a statement on something, he's going to have to own it. And if he agreed with the president, there you go. But there could be other topics. Vice President Vance. The good thing about being vice president is you're advised in almost every cabinet meeting, but you're also not always part of everything because of you don't have that executive role. So he could do the same thing. You know, J.D. Vance is from a different wing of the party. He is part of the technocrats. And so he could try to talk like that. I'm not saying he will. But that would be the thing. Like, you got to, if these guys are determined that that's what they want to do, they want to run, the election's going to determine which way they talk. Think about this. You know, you ran for office. You know how it is that you need to talk a certain way depending on your audience. Not saying you're talking two-faced. I'm not saying that. If you're talking to a church group, you're going to push more on your religious values and the idea of freedom of religion and what you can do and speak godly and all that. If you're talking to a group of police veterans, you're going to talk about law enforcement and safety and all that. Everything you're saying is truthful. It's just different focus. That's all I'm saying. And you had to pivot. You know, that's completely fine. You're not talking two ways. You're not talking as a two-faced, none of that. You're literally talking your stance, but what's the focus? If you're with a group of farmers, you're pushing agriculture. If you're with a group of people who are about the environment, talking about environmental conservation in Florida is actually a Republican thing as well. You know, we may not be tree hugger level, but we have certain things because we do like having our clean, beautiful land that we can be able to enjoy, whether we're out on the water, out hiking in the state forests, the state parks, stuff like that.
Yeah, we do love our land. We love our fresh water, you know. But so listen, what about Wilt Simpson? I heard he's running again.
Yep.
Who's running against him? Do we have? I haven't even focused on
There's
that.
so Wilton Simpson, our agriculture commissioner, finally announced that he is running for re-election. There was stuff up in the air about him if he was going to be running again or not, because after everything he's done, being in the state senate now as ag commissioner, he's involved in a lot of other big items here or there. You know, as ag commissioner, he's got a great relationship with the Secretary of Agriculture at the federal level. And I know his health was starting to take a hit. So the idea was, and that's not anything inside. He's talked about that at REC meetings, but he played it by ear to figure out, okay, how strong is he still? with his health and everything, and probably was like, you know what, everything's looking good. I'm getting better. I'm getting pushing, and he decided he's going to jump back in and run for re-election, which we allowed 2 terms in Florida, so he's able to do another term. He is
How old
running.
is Wilt? I haven't seen him in
Uh,
several years. It's been a few years since I've been to Tallahassee, but
yeah,
he didn't look that old.
he's in his 60s.
Okay,
I
so
believe, maybe late
God bless him
50s.
if he's worried about his health in his 60s, because that's young.
Yeah. Here we go. Oh, I'm gonna get shot. He turns 60 next month.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
shoot.
Yeah. Okay. I thought for sure like
Not
60s. I
bad.
wasn't thinking like old. I wasn't saying like, oh, he's close to 70. No, 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 no. Please
Yeah,
don't
well,
kill
I'm
me.
thinking his health,
Please don't
like,
beat me up.
how
Yeah.
old is he? Because I remember running into him in Tallahassee when we were, trying to working through Republican Liberty Caucus on some
Yeah.
bills, and he didn't he seemed like he was close to my age, so I was like,
Yeah.
health, oh
Yeah,
God,
no,
it's gonna be so
it says here
tough.
he turned 60 at the end of at the end near the end of June. So yeah, but no, he's been mindful, I mean, and so, he did have an illness or two, I think. I forgot what it was. And
Mm.
so that was taking a number. I mean, and when you're running the entire state, I mean, being Senate president, you're running the state, but you're running just the state Senate. Now, as agriculture commissioner, some people think that that's a low position. And in the hierarchy of some states like Kentucky or North Carolina, where like North Carolina, their cabinet, they call it the Council of State, is 10 elected people. The agriculture commissioner is very low in the totem pole. But in a state like Florida, the agriculture commissioner is the number 4 of the executive branch after the governor, attorney general, and the CFO. But agriculture is still a huge thing. I mean, our symbol literally is the orange, for God's sake.
Mhm.
The Florida Highway Patrol's main insignia item on their patch is the orange, same as the logo on, I think, on their vehicles.
So
And
who's running against him?
so there's a guy by the name of Matt the Welder, who is from
That's
Central
it?
Florida. Yeah, his legal name was Matt Taylor, and then he switched to running as he's been having his video show and everything, doing social media videos, and he's been known as Matt the Welder. And so he was running and trying to run under his name Matt the Welder, and they said he couldn't do that, so he legally changed his name to Matt the Welder. So, and then now the new law took effect that said you cannot change your name within a year. You cannot run for office if you've changed your name within a year, with exemptions for exceptions. I mean, for marriage and divorce, those you don't get penalized for those. So I believe he's having to go back to his previous legal name of Matt Taylor. I've heard that. I'm going to tell you this. This is going to be an interesting year. If I were to bet my money, I'm going to say, and I know I'm going to piss some friends off. If you have to bet money, the safe bet is that Wilt Simpson's going to win re-election. But here's the interesting thing: is that Florida is in a very unique situation. I'm going to do a quick tie-in with the governor's race. I know you mentioned about that.
Yes.
But, we have outsider candidates running for office, and this year is a very interesting year where people are very open to outsider candidates at the big races. So, like, at the governor's race, the
You're
big
saying
three.
outsider candidates like grassroots candidates, or are you
Well,
saying outsider candidates,
so
people that come from different states?
what I mean by outsider candidates, President Trump was an outsider candidate. He never held elected office. Now,
Okay.
you could run for state house having never held office. You could run for state senate having never held elected office. It's a stretch, but you can do that. But state level, the last time there's been let me think. Yeah, the last 2 times that we have had outsider candidates, if you will, run for statewide office that won, it was recent time. Nikki Fried, or as I like to call her, Nikki Fried Chicken. I have that joke. The Democrat Party of Florida chair, who's doing a
No freedom with
abysmal.
greed.
Yeah, I like to. She's doing such a wonderful job. But but what do you call it? She never held elected office. She was a lobbyist for the marijuana industry. And so she was able to win by being appealing. One, we saw about the semantics that happened down in Palm Beach and Broward counties, which is why one of the first things Governor DeSantis did upon coming into office in 2019 was to remove them and work on election reform. But she was able to be appealing for the marijuana industry because a lot of people want to see marijuana legal in Florida. And then The other one was Rick Scott in 2010 when he ran for governor. But that was after the recession. He ran HCA, the largest healthcare company in, I think, the country, at least in the state of Florida. And the idea was Florida needs to get, as my dog gets into the screen.
How cute.
She's a good dog. She's just, I gotta pull a Katie Porter right now. Get out of my shot. No, she's a good dog.
So cute.
Yeah. For those that follow California politics, you'll know the joke. But no, that was the whole thing was, hey, we're dealing with a recession. We need a businessman to get elected to try to fix our budget and everything. And that's why Rick Scott got in. But the difference was Nikki Fried was a huge, she wasn't well known, her name, but she was a lobbyist for one of the biggest companies in the state. And Rick Scott was the head of the largest healthcare company in the state. I mean, HCA took over the main hospital here in my county. So I mean, they're a big thing. So that's the differences. Whereas right now, you got guys like James Fishback and Bobby Williams running for governor. And right now, I think there's a comfortable chance that if the primaries were to happen and they meet qualifications in the end, that both of them could pull 10%, maybe 15% of the vote. And, and that's a large amount for outsider candidates running. The same thing can be said when it comes to like Matt the Welder, because he's been very good at grassroots and getting across. Now, I'm not making any endorsement or making anything like that right now. What I'm just,
I'm just saying his efforts. He's made a lot of efforts.
You got to respect. You got to respect the grind.
Yeah, he's all over the place.
Exactly, and you got to respect the grind.
Social media,
I mean, there's a guy doing the same thing when it comes to CFO, Frank College, I believe, College. I think it's College, who's running for CFO, and he's trying to do the same thing. He's not going to pull as well as Matt the Welder, or in the case of Bobby Williams or James Fishback, but it is an interesting time, and I can tell you this: if you can run for a statewide race, like governor, like ag commissioner, like CFO. Nobody major's trying to do the same thing against Attorney General Uthmeyer. If you can run in a primary where the incumbent is running, or in the case of the governor's race, period, and you can pull 10 to 15%, that's a mandate, and that's going to say a lot. And here's the thing is that it's going to be very good, and it's going to be respectful. I mean, let's think about it. Our mutual friend, Bob White, he ran for governor in 2018, to push the Liberty message for the Republican Liberty Caucus. He got third place in that governor's primary against Ron DeSantis and Adam Putnam. Now, he points out it was a distant third. He only got 2%. But think about that. He pushed the grind and he pulled 2%. That was pretty good. Yeah. The idea that these guys could pull 10, 15% is saying a lot. And what would be smart for them is, should this happen, in an open... Go on.
I think it's totally possible because the American people right now are so tired of the establishment that they're actually starting to pay attention to the grassroots candidates. That's what I call them. Know, and they're really focusing and listening, and they're like, this guy sounds like us.
Right. And that's the thing is that, even elected officials can still be grassrooters. Obviously, you and I know some of them that are still grassrooters that work from their way up. But you're right. Like there are people right now that are so hell bent. Now, look, I'm of the party. I'm not speaking as far as any position like that. I'm just speaking as me. Right. But what I am saying is that's the thing is that there are a lot of people that just don't want to like the party. I had a good conversation with a guy last night, fellow veteran and everything, good stuff. We're talking very similarly minded, but he is a registered independent because he doesn't want to belong to any party. He votes Republican. He voted for President Trump, but he will not join a particular party. He's to be on his own. And there's a lot of people who register to vote Republican because they want to vote in the primaries, but they're going to be pushing the outsiders. And so that's the interesting thing. What would be smart for these candidates, say when the primary is over, and say Frank College or Matt the Welder, Bobby Williams, James Fishback don't win. And I'm saying it like that because I'm in this scenario. I'm not speaking as far as actual definites, but I'm, you know what I mean? I'm speaking, let's say that's the case. Their smart ability is if they're able to pull that much of a vote, they could be able to mount a campaign for a future run for something else, lower level back at home, whether they decide they just want to do county commission, maybe they want to do state house or state senate. Because if you can pull 10%, let's say, in a statewide race with an incumbent or something as big as going on like the governor's race, that's huge. And, people are going to have to recognize that. And that's happened before. I've seen cases where people ran for one office, did so well that the party or the people around are like, we can get behind this person.
It
And
really is. It's huge and it's impressive because they're not running on a budget like, the incumbents have.
right,
And they still have to be at all the places that those incumbents
exactly.
have to be.
His,
They're paying out of their pocket, and in every donation or in-kind donation, they are working their butts off.
Yeah. Well, here's a great example that can tie just directly in with that. Look at John James up in Michigan. John James ran for U.S. Senate up in Michigan. He lost, but he was so close and he did so well, especially in his part of Michigan, that the people were like, this guy's pretty strong. We can utilize him. He's got a lot of good stuff. And he was able to run for Congress and get elected. And now he's currently serving as congressman. And guess what? He's now running for governor of Michigan because he was able to, because the people realized this guy's good. He's really good. I think the president endorsed him back then. He's really good. He's very passionate. He's very capable. He's hitting the grassroots. We can utilize him. I mean, he lost the Senate race, but we can get him in Congress. And so they got him to run for Congress. He won, and he did so well that clearly he wanted to move up, but the people also saw something good in him. Now, I'm going to pull it up right now just to make sure, but I don't believe that they've even had the primaries entirely yet for Michigan just yet. So I'm pulling up as we speak. And yeah. The primary takes place August 4th, so they still haven't had their primaries. But John James is one of the leading guys. The former Michigan Attorney General Mike Cox is also. Perry Johnson, the businessman who tried running for president in 2024, he's running. And the current minority leader of the state Senate is running. So it is a split thing. But if John James can pull it off, it's going to be saying a lot. And that's the thing, is that you can get these guys. They run for something big, they lose, but if they did something respectable enough, they can pull them into something else. And if you pulled 10% in a statewide race for cabinet, then, if you conducted yourself in a respectable manner and you have similar ideologies to the people around, they may want to push and say, hey, you would be great in this spot. I mean, think about it. That's what happened with, Jay Collins, the lieutenant governor, was that because I knew him when he was first running for Congress, was that he was running for Congress to want to fix things there. Redistricting happened in 2022, and the governor contacted him and said, hey, you got a great thing. You'll get a lot more done if you go for the state Senate, because they knew that Laurel Lee was going to win that district. And so they wanted, the governor didn't want to see his knowledge go to waste, and so got him to get into the state Senate. And there you go. That's the thing, is that in his case, he was doing well enough that they saw the capabilities and was like, hey, you be great and you could win the Senate race. The same thing can be applied for these outsider candidates. And what's also going to happen is it's going to lead to other people in other races down the line doing the same thing. I mean, Vivek Ramaswamy did that when he ran for president in 24, and now he's the nominee for governor for the Republicans in Ohio. Perry Johnson's trying to run for governor of Michigan this year. He ran in 2024. Now, those are guys who have a lot of money. But people that don't have a lot of money, if they do well enough, like Matt the Welder, doesn't have a lot of money. He doesn't have millions and millions and millions of dollars. Same thing for Bobby Williams. But if they do respectful enough, their home counties may call upon them and say, you had the right goals, you had the right ambition, you had the right platform. What about running for state house or state senate or county commission or something? And they can utilize that. And it's also because they're going to want to put them in a position that they could do great in, but also they want to make their friends because they don't want to be the enemy, and they want to utilize. If you see a starlight, that's what happens. As I'm saying all this, and I know I'm rambling, I'm thinking back to Gerald Ford. That was the same thing. Gerald Ford came back from World War II. He was a naval officer, served in the Pacific, and he got involved in Republican politics. And they had an incumbent congressman at the time who was an isolationist and was not doing too well. And people wanted to see some change. And so the party and a bunch of other people pushed Gerald Ford to run. And he worked with his hard Midwestern work ethic standards. What was his famous motto? The harder you work, the bigger the reward. I worked like hell. And that's what he did.
Yeah,
And,
you have
and
to
he,
work
and
like
he
hell to
yeah,
get the reward,
and
and it's
that's the thing.
satisfying when you get it.
And while he wasn't clearly the best of when it came to being president, talking about his time just getting into Congress. That was the thing. He worked hard and he beat the incumbent Republican in the primary and then was able to win the general. So the same thing goes. Like if you show the effort and you got the right goals and concepts, people are going to want to see you elsewhere. I got a friend of mine who's elected right now here in the state of Florida who is running for state house. Power players in that area were supporting someone else, but they're like, hey, you got some great goals. You care about your local government as well. We know that. If you bow out of this race, we can back you with running for city council because your city doesn't have as many reliable people running or looking to run. And he looked at the numbers, realized he probably wasn't going to win the primary for that House race, so he bowed out. He endorsed the one person, and everyone backed him when he ran for city council, and he won. And someone's gonna get mad about that, saying like, "Oh, it's a deal." It's like it's also if you can tell that you're not likely to win, this is the safer bet. But you can also make your mark. There's nothing wrong with going to a lower position. John Quincy Adams lost re-election for president in the 1828 election against Andrew Jackson, and then 3 years later, the people of Massachusetts asked him to run for Congress, and he got back in. And people thought it was degrading that and this last part, I'm sorry, I'll shut up, is that the people thought it was insulting or degrading that the former president is now one of a few hundred members of Congress. And he said it best, no one can be degraded for serving the people.
Yeah, they always say if you run and lose, you run again. You just have to have the energy to run again. Younger people, I think, can do it. I wouldn't run again. It just I'm too old for it.
No, you're still young. You're younger than me.
You
You
know?
got it in you.
But uh, with that all being said,
We
who
need
would
you to
you
run,
say?
Joanne. You're the best. You could make things truly better. The rivers of the Indians will be even bluer and cleaner. Run, Joanne, run.
Run, Joanne, run. Dun, 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 dun. But listen, who are the top four governor candidates? Right, gubernatorial candidates.
So, in no particular order, the obvious big three is going to be Speaker Paul Renner, Congressman Byron Donalds, Lieutenant Governor Jay Collins. It's going to be those three, without a doubt, as the big three. For number four is going to be something because James Fishback is going off of the younger vote. He is doing huge numbers by going to colleges and speaking there and getting numbers there. And then Bobby Williams, who's also running as an outsider candidate, is doing very well, getting grassroots support, and has got a calm demeanor. Where James Fishback is rugged and goes against the grain as an outsider candidate, Bobby Williams does it in a respectful, godly manner, and all that. And so they're two different sides. So they're going to be splitting their votes in terms of the outsider candidate for people that want to vote non-elected people. Now, how much of that goes is the question. Like I was saying before, I wouldn't be surprised if either of them poll 10% of the vote, maybe 15%, which again is a lot. I mean, even if they somehow came out to only 5%, that's still a lot because for running for governor with three big name people running for governor as well, to try to pull 5% is still a lot. So the idea that both of these guys could split votes and pull 10% is the thing. I would,
Yeah, it's an achievement anyway.
yeah, I would venture to guess. For the longest time, I would have guessed James Fishback as the number four in this Mount Rushmore of four candidates, if you will. But because he's getting the young vote, he's going to all the colleges, and he's getting like I'm watching these videos here where he's telling the people if you're a registered independent or a Democrat and you like my stuff, make sure you switch your vote to
Yeah,
Republican.
but the thing with the young vote is the young voters don't really focus on voting in the primaries, and Fishback would need all of those primary votes just to
So
get his foot in the door.
yes, you are right, but there is one thing you're missing. There's a guy I would used to watch videos at times, Simon Sinek, if I remember right. He motivational speaking, does stuff on a little bit on philosophy and psychology. Very smart guy. And he talked about how he knew this guy who had gotten a job, and he was talking to him like, "Oh, how's the job going?" He's like, "I think I might quit." And he goes, "Why?" He's like, "I'm not making an impact." He's like, you've been at this job for 9 months. Younger people have this insatiable need for revolution, if you will, a movement. They need to make change. And the idea of telling them, hey, if you switch your vote If you're an independent or a Democrat and you switch your vote to Republican, or if you're already a Republican, vote for me in the primary. Get this, and they like what he's saying. They get to feel like their vote is revolutionary, that they're making a statement, they're making a movement. And that fits because if you follow the British elections that they just had over there, where their elections completely changed up, the two-party system is starting to look like it's completely in shambles over there because now it's mainly 5 parties nationwide, 6 when you include the other countries like Wales and Scotland. That's the thing, is that people want to see a big change and revolution, if you want to call it that. And that's what the younger people are really thinking, is that they could be part of that. And this has happened. Maxwell Frost did that job in Orlando. AOC did that job in her part of Brooklyn. If people are voting like they're voting out establishment people and voting in the young people who are cool or identify with them. In the case of AOC, she actually spoke Spanish and is Latina, whereas her predecessor was not. Maxwell Frost, young African American. Orlando, the 10th district, is a very African American populated area. So people were able to identify, and also being younger, they got behind that. Younger people like that. And so if you can get them to believe that they are part of a movement, that will fit, and they're going to turn out as such. They will fight because to them it's not just voting, it's a battle. And they want that battle. It is the wild card of this case. Now, how much does that turn into? Maybe he does this primary and in the end he only pulls 5% of the vote. It could be something like that. But it's going to be a good amount, and even 5% in this case, like I said, would be a big deal. Fishback,
I'm curious to see how that turns out because I
yeah,
always say, throw the fish back.
he's he's definitely gone down because there was a lot of people that I knew that were older, or even some younger people I knew. Like I know a guy, I saw him at an event recently, and he was wearing his Fishback baseball hat he had, an actual James Fishback hat. It's actually a good design. I'm gonna be honest. His logo design he did is actually pretty retro. I'm gonna give him that. But even he was waning and was starting to not like some of the stuff with Fishback. Like he's like, there's some things he still does like, but other stuff he doesn't. It doesn't, and it sounds like he may not even vote for him. Fishback has lost a lot of support amongst older people. He's become too radical on all that. The younger people he's got, it's not through and through. I can tell you that. It's not like all young Republicans are getting behind him. Far from it. But there's a large amount that's getting behind. And there's that. But because he's splintered off all the other votes, it's costed him that I think there's a chance he could possibly come in 5th place behind Bobby Williams. Because
Yeah,
Bobby Williams is speaking a lot of similar stuff, but in a calm manner, in a peaceful manner, in a countrified manner, as a godly man coming from the countryside.
well, he's a good old Southern boy. He's right here
Oh, yeah.
from
We had
Southern Florida.
we had our event recently where we had all the big governor candidates there. Fishback no showed. Well, he confirmed he wasn't going to come, but Bobby Williams was there, and we're chatting. We got to chat with all the candidates, and as Bobby's talking, when he had a second, I just blurted out. I said, I got to nerd out for a minute because you got this George Strait look going on right now, and I'm nerding out because I'm a big fan of the King of Country. Like he
And
literally
you always got your boots on, your cowboy hat.
he looked just like him. Like, I mean, the only thing is George Strait sometimes had designer shirts, and what I mean by design is like I've got a designer shirt where it looks like the old prairie with horses, and the moon is setting with the mountain range and all that. George Strait had those shirts at times. Bobby had a plain white shirt, but he still looked very much like George Strait. So I nerded out. I know it sounds goofy, but I'm a country. I'm a
He's a good
country
old
guy.
Southern border. I've interviewed him. I like him. I think he's and I like the feel. I like the feel when you're in his presence. It's a good feel.
It's a
It's
common feel. It is.
yeah,
He's a good guy.
it's not just calming. It's an honest feel. Like he's not taking your money and he's just being real.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen that. We haven't seen that in a long time. Everybody's just like you said, they go and they meet people that are Christians, so they're going to talk about Christianity. He talks about all of it. He came on my show and it wasn't just trying to say what he needed to say. He was just being himself, and I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. Quick thing. I don't know how long you wanted to go. My friend was able to get me that mapping I was telling you about before. I just sent it to you. I don't know if it's too late to try to get that on the screen. I just sent it to you through Messenger. And while she pulls that up for anybody watching, what I'm talking about is I was able to get a map. Friend of mine, it shows all the new congressional district lines and how each voting precinct went. Did they go majority Republican or majority Democrat in terms of the number of votes? And so I sent that to Joanne, so she's pulling it up right now. And the
Let me see if I could go to my
this
screen. You keep talking. I'm going to go to this screen.
hang on a second. I'm looking at that.
Can you see it?
Yeah. So actually, I'm looking at it. I think this is the current ninth district. It's not the correct one, but so I just sent it to my friend. But what it can at least tell you is you look at that map, is you'll see a large amount of the vote because a good amount of that is in your district now. So I apologize, that's not the correct map. Give me a second. I'm going to screenshot
This
it.
is the right map.
That's not entirely the correct one, but it does have a big play into what is going to be part of your district because you are in. You have Osceola and Southeast Polk into the district, so
I'm trying to look at it close up.
yeah. So my
So
apologies.
all those little red dots are the breakdowns,
Yeah,
precincts.
yeah. So okay, I just sent him the new one of what the map looks like and with the different counties. So if you look at that map, it'll at least give you an idea. So at least part of the district for your case is the red dots are all the districts, the precincts, the voting precincts that went majority Republican. The blue dots went majority Democrat. And so,
Republican.
yes. And so if you look at southeastern Polk County, I can't say exactly how much of that's going to be the case. I don't think you're going to get that much of Polk at all. But that southeastern portion of the border where the very bottom of it, you can see Hardy County and see where Polk is. The southeastern corner is Frostproof and all that. That whole area went Republican. You then look and you see Osceola County. Okay, that went so far westward in Bartow, so that's not. So right in the middle of that area with Polk County, you see the Frostproof. There's some precincts that went Democrat, but mostly Republican. You look at Osceola County, and they're all Republican except for that one portion down in South Osceola. And then the southwest corner, Kissimmee of Osceola County, you see that, a lot of blue. And then you look at that southern portion of Orlando, a fair amount of blue. So while this map is in itself not entirely correct, it does at least give you an idea of what South Orange County is like and what Kissimmee mainly for Osceola County, what that's going to be like. And then, it gives you the comfort for southeastern Polk for what you were wondering. I'm actually trying to figure out how this map was made. It's confusing me. I apologize. I'm aware it's a start in short order, has to use. Oh, okay, I understand.
What?
So it's still working the model. So it's been developing. That was the update he was given. So he's going to get me the correct map. I'll get it to you for a later time.
Yeah,
But it
so
does
those
give
are
you an
going to be
idea.
the areas they're going to need to work hard to flip votes over there.
Yeah, but at least it gives you an idea that most of Osceola County is going Republican, though the Kissimmee area and that South Orange has a fair amount of blue that you have to worry about. But remember, you have Okeechobee, you have Glades, you have Highland County. Those three counties, I doubt many voting precincts went Democrat majority. Indian River, the back of your hand, so you know how the county goes there. How many precincts would have gone Democrat or Republican, most likely. So this at least gives you what you already know about Indian River, and you can take with confidence in Glades, Highlands, and Okeechobee. This at least gives you the idea.
Orange and Polk and Osceola.
Right. This at least gives you the idea of Polk, and it gives you Osceola County and part of South Orange, which are the big things you were worried about. And so it actually, now keep in mind, you see a lot of red in Osceola, but they're spaced out. Whereas you look at Kissimmee and it's just dot, 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 dot. It's literally trying to play like the dots merge together. So
Kissimmee has a lot of Latin people in it now. That whole demographic has changed as far as culture.
Well, remember, Kissimmee is Disney World. Disney World is not in Orlando. It's in Celebration, I believe, is what they made the name called. And so a lot of the people live in the Kissimmee, Poinciana area, mostly the Kissimmee area. And so that's the thing. So you have a lot of Disney people who are leftists and all that move there. And And yeah, so they're going to be voting like that. So it is a large amount of the population. But you also see that it's consolidated. So they're going to need to do their part to get out the vote as much as they can. Whoever's running for office, whoever becomes a Republican nominee, they're going to have to work hard in Kissimmee, and they're going to have to work hard in South Orange. But then that's not undercutting the other counties. I'm not trying to undercut my boys in Glades and Okeechobee. I got good friends down there. But you know that they're going to be reliable in those cases. And the big thing is you're gonna really need to get out the vote as well in those because, and I don't know what the voter turnout is. My county tends to go like 70% voter turnout, and Hernando County was one of the higher counties I know in the 24 election.
That's a lot.
Yes, Hernando County very much comes out to vote. From what
Fantastic.
yeah. So I am proud of seeing those numbers, but at the same time as I'm trying to pull up the stuff to see how it went the last time. There we go. Past election results, 24 election, general election. Okay, yeah. In fact, I'll show it right now. I'm going to put it to the camera so you can see. Can you see right there what it says voter turnout for Hernando
Yeah.
County?
Yeah.
What's it say?
It says, oh, hold on, my screen just covered it up. I'm waiting for it says 140, voter turnout, 77.74%.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yep. Hernando County turns out to vote.
That is amazing.
So the big thing is whoever's going to be the Republican nominee, Kissimmee and South Orange, the Democrats will push hard to turn out to vote up there. But the parties down there and all your friends around are going to need to make sure they turn out to vote because when it came to saving money, my saying was nickels and dimes become dollars over time. A little long, but it rhymes, and there you go. The reason why I say that is because the nickels and dimes that may be for places like Highlands and Okeechobee and Glades County will be a lot. I mean, you're looking at it right now. You're seeing those numbers for their elections, and in fact, I think I still have that tab open. Where is it at? Oh yeah, I had it over here. The voter turnout based by county, and not the voter turnout, the population-wise from the redistricting, which I sent to you, and it has the breakdown by county. District 9, Glades County, the population is 12,000, so it is sparsely populated. Highlands County, I'm surprised it's right next to it, 101,000 people. Indian River County, 159,788, which you've even said the number should be what, like 180?
170. We're
170.
around 170 now.
Right. And Okeechobee County, 39,644. So it's probably up to like 42,000 now, maybe even more. Mm-hmm. But while those numbers sound low for places like Okeechobee and Glades, as long as they turn out to vote, it's a big deal. Ron DeSantis, when he won the 2018 election, he did a victory tour, and his first stop was Pasco County, just south of me, and I went and I visited that event. And he made a good point to celebrate and thank the people of Pasco County because, as he said, the voter turnout margin that he won Pasco County by was bigger than his voter margin statewide. In other words, he won statewide by this many votes. He won Pasco County by this many votes. He won Pasco County, and I'm not talking percentage, I'm talking total number of votes. Literally, if you got rid of the voter reach that he won, if you knocked down Pasco County to where he won the county by one vote, he would have lost the governor's race. That's what he was saying. So, so Glades, Highland, and Okeechobee, those nickels and dimes will pay off a lot as long as they turn out and vote, and that'll very much help out. So whoever becomes a Republican nominee needs to do a lot of focus in South Orange and Kissimmee, no doubt, because they're going to need those numbers. But they can't forget about the nickels and dimes that are Glades and
Highlands.
Right. Glades and Okeechobee County are nickels and dimes, and Highlands County and Indian River County are quarters, and Kennedy half dollars. Because it's a bigger population, but those numbers add up. So they need to turn out to vote. Like, I don't know what Indian River's turnout is, but it's got to make sure that it's very high. And
oh my gosh, their last primaries were like 35%.
so the primaries will be low. My county was very low this last primary. I'm going to tell you that. 2024, Hernando County's primary was a very low turnout. But, and in fact, we had a special election for our state Senate race when Blaise Ngolia became CFO, and Hernando County, percentage-wise, had the lowest turnout, which was pretty bad. But general election wise is the key thing. You want more Republicans to turn out to vote so they can vote for the Republicans that you want or just in general. And they should be strong in the primaries. I want to see high numbers for the primaries. But the general elections, you'll have a county that may do 30% in the primary, but does 60, 70% in the general. And as long as they do that, you have much better odds at winning the races, especially if the Republicans turn out. Because here in Hernando County, the Democrats are the third party. The independent NPAs outnumber the Democrats in Hernando County. So that large voter turnout you see is very much the Republicans and then the NPA independents. So in your county, you want to see high voter turnout, but especially the Republicans. And every vote that comes in from Indian River and Glades and Okeechobee and Highlands can help offset some of the Democrat votes that come in from Kissimmee.
Yeah, we're going to need that. Yeah. So, hey, I wanted to ask you before we go, SB 484, AI and data centers. That was a good bill that he wrote.
Yeah, well, so I believe it was Senator Avila from the Senate that pushed that. Yes. So I was at that press conference. So I was at the governor's press conference in at Florida Polytechnic University. Ironically, is where they did it. And so, like, you saw that big, like, you saw the screen that looked like it had his banner behind him. That was a giant, like, LED TV screen or whatever it is. I'm not a TV guy, or electronics guy. That was a full digitized screen. Everything was awesome. And what the SB 484 did is it did a number of good things. One, it gave power back to the local government in terms of giving the approval on a data center. It's not just going to be cut and dry, the idea that the state could approve it. If Vero Beach, if the city council doesn't want a data center, if somebody tries to come in saying we want to do a data center, the city council has the ability to vote no. And the state government can't come in and say, no, you don't have that right. Or the county government may not, won't be able to have that right to say if it's in incorporated lands. If it's
That's
unincorporated,
really important for the county to be able to do that because
right.
a lot of these data centers are outsiders coming in, buying our land,
Yep.
and then changing the whole landscape of what's going on in our county.
Exactly. And so, like, while we wouldn't see many of these examples, a great example is there is a plan. What's his name? Zuckerberg. Meta is trying to build a large data center in Louisiana, and the data center, the oh my god, the schematics that they've done for their data center shows that it's going to be much larger than the entire borough of Manhattan, New York, which is the downtown city where the Empire State Building and the Freedom Tower and all that stuff. That's Manhattan. It's going to be bigger than that. The one in Utah that Kevin O'Leary is pushing is like, someone said like 6 times the size of Brooklyn or Manhattan or something like that. It's going to be huge.
That's really big.
It's yes. I mean, think about Manhattan may not be that big when it comes to size. It's just very packed and traffic horrible. But it's not
Yeah.
the biggest thing, but it is a huge size of a borough. And so you think about the idea of how big this thing that Kevin O'Leary is doing, they can be quite huge. We have the Florida Wildlife Corridor that Agriculture Commissioner Simpson pushed when he was Senate President, and he's been overseeing it as Ag Commissioner as well. So there's a lot of land that we have, plus a lot of state parks and state forests and national parks and 1 or 2 national forests like Ocala. There's not a lot of land to be able to do a large data center like that. There's like only a couple places where it could, but you could still have a lot of data centers. And, it was something because I went to 2 press conferences that day. Lieutenant Governor Jay Collins did a press conference talking about the AI and everything, and he did it in Lakeland. It was supposed to be in Fort Meade, and the Fort Meade City Council told the Lieutenant Governor, no, you're not doing an event in Fort Meade. Like, literally, they had it all planned out. It was going to be at the community center, I believe. And
So you've been talking to a lot of the gubernatorial candidates. What is Byron Donald's stance on the AIs and data centers in Florida?
So I'm trying to think. Congressman Donalds is for the data centers. Lieutenant Governor Collins is not for them. He's also knowing that it's likely stuff to happen. But they got to make sure everything's done right. So he needs to know like his certain limitations on what the state can do if they're going to push back completely. Like 484 now is going in effect that now allows the city governments to allow, so the state can't be as involved. But there are some categories where they do, and the key thing is making sure it's done right. Speaker Renner has posted he's not a big fan about all this. He wants to make sure all this stuff is done right as well. Bobby Williams, I'm going to assume, is not a fan. Fishback, I haven't heard. I mean, I can't say as far as that. So I'm not entirely certain. But the governor will have a play in this because one of the key things in SB 484 is they have to use a lot of water to be able to keep their system cool. They have to use them for cooling for the systems. And so the policy literally says that they need to receive a permit from either the respective water management district of the area, which I live in Hernando County, so we're part of SWIFMUD, the Southwest Florida Water Management District. It's weird that it's called Southwest Florida, and yet I'm up in West Florida. Anyway, the mapping is a little weird for that. But you could have a respectful water management district in your area. There's South Florida Water Management District, there's the St. Johns River, there's Swanee River Management, etc. And so you either had to get a permit from one of those or the Department of Environmental Protection if you don't fall within line. So the state has a play in that. And this is where the governor comes into importance because the governor is the chief executive of the executive branch and oversees these departments. And the secretary of the department falls under the governor. So DEP will have a huge thing. And the next governor is going to have a huge thing when it comes to the data centers in terms of the water portion with DEP or with the water management districts, because the water management districts overseen by a commission, and the commissioners are appointed by the governor and then confirmed by the state senate. So the governor very much comes into play on this. So whoever the next governor is, the commissioners they pick for the water management districts, thus being confirmed by the senate, could be a big play on this as well. Now dealing with the data centers if they're in those districts, and if they're not within a water management district, then it falls to DEP, and the secretary of DEP is a big play on that.
Wow. Yeah, well, there's a lot going on in Florida, and data centers are a big concern because the state is on a sandbar.
Yeah.
And our aquifers underneath the sandbar. And we have all these estuaries and, protected waterways. It's the worst place to build data centers. It's not hard, solid ground like when you move north of Tallahassee into Georgia and the mountains and stuff like that. Like our territory is so delicate that I don't see any benefit of big data centers on our properties.
Yeah.
And anywhere in Florida.
And it's going to be something because we are going to have a lot because Florida is the third most populated state in the country. And it's the second most Republican state in the country with population after Texas. The difference, though, is that Florida politicians are making their way to D.C. Not as many Texas guys are because Texas doesn't have term limits. So these guys can keep moving up and pushing through with the good things going on over in Austin there. But the other thing is it's also a cooler state. We get hot as hell here in Florida, obviously, but it's actually cooler when you compare to most of Texas. And so they want that ability to have a cooler temperature with some things here or there. But I'll say this, and I know this will be the last part of it, is, at least from my end, is look at Fort Meade. I mentioned that the city council or the city government told the lieutenant governor, you're not having your press conference on city land, which was like the community center, so they had to last minute find a place in Lakeland. The city council is going forward with a data center, I believe, and there's a lot of backlash. People turned out in Fort Meade, which is in Polk County, by the way. And so look at that. Now, the bill, SB 484, gives the power back to the city, so the city has the ability to approve or disapprove. But now it's going to be up to the people to make sure they're following what their city council or city commissioners do and the mayors on this whole thing, because that shows how important these are. I don't think the day is going to come where people are going to come to the Hernando County Commission and ask about doing data centers in Hernando, and the commissioners will have to answer now at that point. I don't know how soon it'll be. I don't know if it's in the near future. I don't know if it's 10 years from now. In Polk County, it's already happening because Fort Meade has already been voting on it. And they pissed off a lot of people with how they did the stuff. And so now the city council is having to deal with all that. And so I'd say watch for that and watch how the results are going and how people are. And this is going to be one of those questions that people are going to be asking their new local candidates for city council or county commission. I got a friend of mine who's the mayor of a small town in a coastal county, and he outright said to me, one of the big questions when he running for mayor or the other city commissioners running for election that they get asked is, what's your view on Airbnb? Because the town that he's in, which is a population of about 1,500 or so, they don't want Airbnbs in the city, in the town. And so, literally, if you're a pro Airbnb candidate, you could probably lose your election for the city, for the town commission, or being mayor. The
Wow.
people, because the people don't like that. Now, that's a small example. But what I'm getting at is that that is a big topic to that town and the people running for the town commission or the mayor. AI data centers is going to be one of those things that people are running. If you are planning on running for county commission or city council, you're going to probably be asked that question at some point because it's become such a hot topic. Is, do you support having an AI data center? And if you come out saying yes, depending on the county, they may not like it. Some counties, the people might not care. But let me put your feet to the fire right now. If you were running for county commission in Indian River, for, let's just say for fun, or Vero Beach City Council, and you said you were for the AI data centers, how would Vero Beach City do, and how would Indian River County do on that vote?
Oh, they would just, phew, that would be a killer.
See,
Nobody would want AI data centers here.
right. In your case, Indian River County and Vero Beach, they'd be against it. There's some counties that probably would love it, or they just might not care. It might not be a big deal. But this is going to be one of those hot topic items for city and county candidates for the next couple of years. I'd say this year's election, because that's a hot topic, and the 2028 election. And depending on how things go from there, it may be going forward with 2030. I'd say by the 2030 election, the discussion will have been made moot. Either the state has embraced data centers and people just lost that battle or don't care anymore. It's like, oh, I'm for it now. Or they'll push so hard against that the whole idea just is kaput and no one's been pushing to bring them into the state. We're talking 4 years from now, 4.5 years from the 2030 election. So we've gotten more than enough time from then. But I'll say this is a big deal for this election because we're right here on the precipice. And I think 2 years is not enough time for people to determine if they're just going to be fully support or fully against. 2030 will be the final point where it's like, this is the viewpoint, this is the concept. This part of Florida, they're for it. This part of Florida, they're not for it. This area of the state, they're okay-ish or whatever, and you'll know where the battle lines have been drawn. And the other key thing is, do the incumbents get reelected, or do the people that are for or against data centers, do they get elected? This is going to be a real barometer test, and it's a new topic that all these elected officials and candidates are going to have to pivot on. They've been focusing on the roads, on their police departments, on expanding EMS, on IT.
Well, I think as data centers, as people get more educated on data centers, they're not going to want that. Nobody wants higher costs in their housing, their water, their electricity.
and
They don't
that's
want that.
and that's one of the things that came with SB 484 is that the bill puts all the onus on the company. The way it's been was that the data centers are being built, and the extra cost now that the electrical companies and all the power companies, they have to retrofit their systems to be able to handle all the power coming from these centers. And so now cost goes up, and they would just spread it out across all the other constituents they have, just spread the costs around. Could be a couple bucks, could be $100 for all I know. This new law says no, that's not happening. Now the company is going to have to fit it. So if Duke Energy, if a data center is built and Duke Energy, let's argument's sake, says we have to retrofit our system. This is going to cost $100,000 a year. We could spread it out across all of our constituents and customers. No, now it's going to go to the company making the data center. They're going to have to pay that $100,000 difference per year. They cannot put it to the people. So that is a good safeguard that came from this bill as well. And one quick point, because I was at the press conference, the bill was pushed by a senator and then the House version by a rep and everything. But notice I noticed it. I was like, not a single legislator was at the governor's press conference. Not one. Not one.
Wow.
Not just that they weren't there up there when he was signing the bill. No, none of them were in the audience. And I made a point to a friend of mine and about that when at the event, and they're like, they don't want to be seen there with the bill signing because they don't want to be made an enemy of the tech world.
Wow.
Or maybe the tech world doesn't want them there, and so they're just listening to it. Who knows? Or it could be that they're for the data centers. It could be even that. Who knows?
Well, John, I want to say we had a packed full evening. This was great. I really enjoyed it.
I appreciate it. I enjoyed it. I'm sorry if I rambled too much. It's what I do.
You're great. I love it. It's always a pleasure to have you on, and we will do this again soon.
I'm looking forward to it. If you have the pain tolerance to keep having me come back, I'll take care of it, and I'll always come back. So I appreciate it.
Well, thanks, John. I'm going to close it out, and you have a good weekend.
I'll try. You do the same. You stay out of trouble. You're the one who gets into trouble a lot.
I know I'm in trouble already.
At least you already know it.
All right. Let's move on to the closing. I'll talk to you soon. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us here today at the Binford Chronicles. I wanted to just do a quick overview with you guys because I want to invite you to the Warrior Shield in September. And I just wanted to show you how affordable the rooms are. They have a arrangement with the Rosen Center so that these rooms are very affordable, and they're also pet friendly. So remember to go to warriorshield.org, take a look. This year, they are supporting the Border Patrol Foundation for those border families. And again, thank you for joining us here at Binford Chronicles. And tomorrow, I'll be hosting the Board Report. Join us at IRC Media at 7 p.m. on the Board Report. Have a good evening.
We're going to stop the whole world for 2 minutes. Twice. 2 different moments. 2 historical moments. First, we will gather everyone in Christian ministry, from the pastors to the janitors, in every church and ministry from the 194 nations, to pray for America, all at the same moment in time, for the first time ever, on July 3rd, on the eve of America's 250th birthday. To then kick off the global sign-up of 2 billion believers led through the unique app technology for one singular global moment of awakening on November 1st, 2026, All Saints Day, a Sunday, 2 days before America's elections. The global Christian ministry leaders and servants leading the world to a seminal moment in American history. The moment the entire world stops to pay America back by praying for America for 2 minutes.